Alright, welcome to another morning show, everyone. It's been maybe a couple weeks since I did a morning show. So there's a lot of going on in the world, a lot of stuff to pay attention to. And it's been rainy and windy on the drives in. So that usually makes me not want to ramble. It usually makes me want to pay attention. Because some people cannot drive these days. The shitty driving epidemic seems to be occurring. So, alright. What I kind of want to talk about today is the network of brains, and adding this perspective to kind of your daily perception. It will enable you to not necessarily predict, but sort of have an idea of the spectrum of outcomes and interactions that you might have when you're thinking ahead in your day, and you're going to be like, all right, well, this person does this. I need this from them. Think about where their network of brain is. Their brain network. What do I mean by that? Well, if we're dealing with a situation where all of our brains are connected to the same network, that means every single thought, everything you eat, everything your gut's feeling, everything, we're all in tune to that same network. You need to use your brain to become more aware of all of those processes, right? Like a lot of the thoughts in your head come from this network, come from the thoughts and feelings of others. People they think all their thoughts are like internal. They're like, why am I having these weird thoughts? Like, I can't shake it. Well, a lot of times it's not even you. You're just sensitive to something else. Like always being in tune to a radio station that you can never turn off. So how do you use that to your advantage? I would say in a right and proper way, not just how do you use that advantage to gain monetary advantage is what I was trying to say. How do you make money off of people? Which is sadly what the vast majority, it seems, or a lot of people just seem to, well, it's all about money. Okay, well, I guess I can see why you think that, because you think there's security in money, having money, which then you're really not saying that, well, having money is like a good thing. And you really just say, I want the security that money brings. So you could maybe make some argument here that people who have a lot of money or want a lot of money, need a lot of money, are always focused on money. They're just basically insecure. That could be true sometimes, and it could not be true sometimes. So it's not like a golden rule. But the point remains is what is really everybody seeking when they just want more money? Well, they just want security for when shit happens in their lives, that they can just pay for it and not have to fucking stress out. That's really all that anybody's looking for. Unless you're all power hungry and greedy fuck. So imagine, the spectrum of everybody's want for just security and money. Every brain on this network has a different level, and some similar, of course. They're on the spectrum. If you can put yourself in a perspective state where it's like you're just observing and thinking about, well, where where are other people at in life, and what would they be thinking about, and how would they feel about certain things? Well, you can use their want for security to gauge their behavior in almost every facet of their life. Because people operate with their baselines. When we don't understand our levels of consciousness, we don't understand how our defense mechanisms work. And when we don't understand, excuse me, how our defense mechanisms work, then those can be triggered by some things that do understand how our defense mechanisms work, and you can be manipulated to achieve a certain behavior. It's like herding cattle. In some respects, herding animals, whatever. Humans, however, they're just a little more complex animal. But if you can separate their awareness from how their psyche works, then you can manipulate their psyche. And that can be as simple as a bully making someone feel afraid. He's manipulating their psyche. I shouldn't say he, but the bully is trying to incite a reaction. It knows that if they try to bully, they'll get some sort of reaction. And if that person cowers away, then they put them in a fight or flight situation. They read their reaction, and then they know if they can manipulate them further or not. Like, does that person respond favorably towards the bully's intentions, right? That they want to use that person for. Usually that's what it is. Like, that person is trying to get something out of bullying something else. That's just an example of how the psyche will defend itself, right? If you feel like you're being threatened, if you don't have enough money for some situation, you feel somewhat insecure about the situation because there are unknowns and you don't know how to defend yourself from it. It's really all kind of based on security for the most part. Which makes proper sense. Like, why wouldn't your internal, your your subconscious layers, your instincts, why wouldn't they be tuned for survival and security? They would be, right? That would make proper sense. So, how is that information useful? Well, it can kind of show you some things if you just put that into perspective, again, considering what other brains on the network are thinking and doing and how they might react. That puts you in a good spot where you can sort of perceive, and again, you can gauge the outcome of your actions, your available actions, right? Most times, we're not put in fight or flight situations. So, a lot of the internal issues, or just non-flight or flight situations, right, that are issues in your life, or whatever it may be, that you're trying to figure out or react to. Maybe you're just trying to get a girl's number or a guy's number, whatever your situation may be, and you're weighing your options. Well, if you can kind of consider what that person may be doing and thinking at the time, well, then you can present, you can go out at about achieving, you can try to achieve your goals a little more effectively, because you'll have a little more clear understanding, right? You'll have a ability to gauge how that person might react. So, there are some other deeper things, about understanding how brains are on a network and sort of just thinking about everything happening all at once. Like, what's happening in China right now? What's happening in Japan? What's happening in underwater? What's happening in the sky? Like, all of these brains, all of these consciousnesses, consciousness, that's a good one. While you're thinking about all of those things going on, one reason why I've noticed that some of my speech and my words lately are getting like a little mixed up. And normally people would be like, what the heck, I'm talking like I'm drunk, like I'm just not coherent. But what I've been doing is actually learning Spanish. And what I noticed as a result of doing that is that I'll make some sort of subconscious changes where I'm sort of following Spanish rules, grammar rules, instead of English. It's been actually kind of an interesting occurrence, which is making me sort of think out what I'm wanting to say more than I have had to in the past. Because I have, I guess, more of a vocabulary to choose from. Is that maybe why that's occurring? And just some grammar structure rules, and not only grammar, but English a lot of times isn't gender specific, whereas Spanish is. Like, who is speaking depends on how you use, like, the form of the where of like to have something. If you're saying like I have something, and well, I guess you kind of do it in English too, like I have or she has, they have. You kind of do the same thing in English, but it's not as gender specific. Like, you can say he has and she has. Like, to have something isn't gender specific. And then usually even the noun, like the object, well, what do they have? That can even be gender specific sometimes. So it might have been why I'm coming up with words like consciousness, which reminds me of Kev, because he would usually say some word, like he'd just have some trouble on some words, so he'd just kind of say them in his own way, which would always make me laugh. I always thought he was doing it on purpose, just to throw some spice in the dish, whatever. All right. Well, I am going to focus on driving the rest of the way, because there's some construction curvies coming up where the lines are all kind of unclear, and what I've noticed is that people cannot follow the right lines. They figure out what lines that they should be going in, and then you can see how long they can pay attention. You can literally see how long they can maintain, like, okay, which ones are the right ones, and oh, I lost where I was, I gotta figure it out again. It's like, holy fuck, dude. Oh my god. Try driving through that when it's like, 1, windy, 2, rainy, where it's like the water weight causes wake, so you can't see, and you just, oh my god, I avoid it. I actually make a conscious effort to avoid it, because I'm like, no, that's going to be a hazard, and there are such morons driving through there, and it's like morning, like half of them are like barely awake. They're like playing music, and I'm telling you, you can see how long they can pay attention to like what lines they're supposed to be in. So when these lines are like kind of crisscrossing and shit, you can see where it's like somebody's just going to drift over and hit somebody. Like, and then you're in a situation a lot of the time where you can't slow down because there's someone on your ass that's like, let's go, let's fly through here like a bunch of idiots. And you can't really move forward because it's rainy and shit, so you're stuck in a spot where you can't move out of the way. It's crazy. So yeah, I make a conscious effort to stay out of the way. I just stay out of there. I go around. a different route. So yeah, I guess that's one small example of knowing what the brains on the network driving through that area are going to be thinking and doing, and which one I should be avoiding that spot. So to expand on this a little, if you kind of project your thoughts in those directions, you'll find that your gut actually will kind of lead you in the right direction. Even when you're like thinking about like, where do I want to go eat today, your gut will kind of be like already available, because you're on the network, you're on the brain network, so you know what's happening over there. You know if there's an accident or something. Subconsciously, your brain and your gut know. They're tuned in. It's like, hello, user, end user, wake up, tune yourself in. Some thoughts will make your gut feel happy, and some will make them feel, That's when you know you're tuned into your gut, man. When your system's working. Like, you have to understand, there are two brains happening here, and the first one's happening in your gut. The second one's happening in your fucking head. And the third one is that spark of life, if you can fucking figure that out. If you can ascend up the ladder. If you can get that far, Kudilios. All right. I said I was going to leave. I'm going to leave now. Goodbye.